All right, Deborah, are you ready?
I am.
Awesome. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our virtual story time with Deborah Diesen. My name is Elizabeth, and I'm the events coordinator here at Schuler Books. Deborah Diesen is the author of many children's picture books, including the New York Times best-selling series, Pout Pout Fish. She loves playing with words and rhymes and rhythms. She has worked as a bookseller, a bookkeeper, and a reference librarian. She and her family live in Michigan. Today, Deborah will be reading to us from her newest Pout Pout book called Pout Pout Fish and the Willa Whale. I think this is the 10th in the Pout Pout series, so we're really excited to hear from this story. If you have any questions during the event, feel free to drop them in the comments on our Facebook pages, and we'll do a little Q&A at the end of the presentation. So welcome, Deborah.
Well, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am so happy to be here with you. And I am here with Mr. Fish. I'm going to put him right here so he can hang out during our story time. I also have a little Mr. Fish joining us as well. And I am here to read you a story called The Pout Pout Fish and the Willa Whale. And I've joked to a few people that the book is my autobiography. Now, it's not really my autobiography. An autobiography is a book about yourself. It's a true story about what happened to you or what your life has been like. And I'm not a whale who lives in the ocean, but I am someone who sometimes worries. And being a person who worries isn't a bad thing or a good thing. It's just how I am. I have blue eyes. That's not bad or good. I am 5'6". That's not bad or good. That's just who I am. I also sometimes worry, and that's not bad or good. It's just how I experience emotions. And we all have emotions, and our feelings are our feelings, and we get to have them. The good ones and the hard ones, they're just part of who we are. But what's important is knowing how to identify them and knowing what we're feeling and also what to do with them. So some of Mr. Fish's books have been about feelings and what to do with them. And this book that I'll read to you is about what to do when you feel a worry. Now, some of you may have felt a worry before, and some of you may not have. Some of you may have felt a worry but didn't know what to call it. So before I tell you a little about how I experience worry, I would like you to take a moment and close your eyes and imagine that you are taking a trip to the moon. Now, I don't think any of us watching this have ever actually gone to the moon. I'd be surprised if someone in the audience was an astronaut who had gone to the moon. So most of us have never been there. We may have seen pictures, but we haven't taken that trip. But all of us right now are able to imagine going to the moon. Maybe when you imagine it, you see pictures inside your head. Maybe you just have a feeling. Some people don't see pictures. I don't see pictures inside my head. Maybe you think of words that describe the experience, but you're using your head to create a story about something that hasn't happened. That's your imagination, and it's the most powerful thing any of us have, our imagination. So if you still have your eyes closed, you can open them back up. But I want you to think about what a wonderful thing imagination is. And imagination is also what makes worry possible. When I imagine something that could happen, that might happen, and it's something I don't want to have happen, that is me having a worry. And by way of example, I have a glass of water right here on my desk, because sometimes when I'm reading a story, I get a little thirsty, and I might want to take a sip of water. But I'm a little worried because sometimes I move my hands around when I'm talking. I'm a little worried that I might knock that glass of water over. I can tell a story inside my head of something that could happen, and I don't want it to happen. So I'm concerned, I'm worried about spilling my water. That isn't a good or bad thing. It just is. I have a worry. It's what I do with it that matters. Something I might do is say, well, I am worried about that and I don't want it to happen. So I'm going to have a different kind of cup. I'm not going to have a cup that spills. Or I might say, I'm going to have a towel ready just in case I do spill my water. So I can prevent something from happening, or I can prepare for it. If I worry and notice I'm worried and then do something about it. For me, what happens sometimes with my worries is I get stuck and I just think about the worry and I don't think that there are things I could do, or I don't notice everything else that's going on. If I worry too much about spilling my water, I won't think about what a wonderful thing it is to be here talking to you and telling you a story. Another thing that happens is that sometimes when I worry, my worries get really complicated. Like if I thought, what if I spill my water and it ruins the story time? And the bookstore never asked me to do another story time. And no bookstore ever wants me to do another story time, or any library or any place. Does that seem very likely that I would spill my water and I would end up never getting to do another story time? I don't think so. I don't think that's likely at all. So when I feel a worry and my worry is getting really big, first of all, I say, is that likely? Will that really happen? And then I say, is there something I can do? Is there something I could do to prevent that or prepare for it? And if I can't do either of those things on my own, then it's a good time to talk to someone and have a friend or family member help me with my worry. And that's what the story of the Pout Pout fish and the Worry Whale is about. And I'm going to share that story with you now. The Pout Pout fish and the Worry Whale. If any of you are holding the book in your hands while I'm reading, there are a couple of pages, I just think there's 2, maybe 3, where the words are slightly different, because after we came up with this final version of the book, even then I had a few little changes to make, but they're pretty minor. I just wanted to let you know in case any of you were wondering about that if you're following along in your own book. And I'm going to go ahead and read now. Mr. Fish was quite excited. There's a party to attend. With gift in hand, he headed out and bumped into a friend. You can see his friend over here. That's Willa Whale. Hello there, Willa Whale, he said. We're off to the same place. But his friend did not look happy. There was worry on her face. Is something wrong? Asked Mr. Fish. I'd like to help if so. It's the party, answered Willa Whale. I don't want to go. Is worry even bigger than a whale? At first, I thought it sounded fun, but then I got to thinking of all the things that might go wrong, and now my tummy's sinking. What if it's too crowded or no one wants to play? What if I feel out of place and don't know what to say? And in this picture, if you notice, there's imagination of all those things. Willa is using her imagination, and inside her head, all these possibilities are coming to life. And that's what I was talking about with how our imagination goes to work with our worry. So you can see her experiencing that. Mr. Fish was understanding. Sometimes I worry too. Worry tells us stories, but not all of them are true. So take a great big breath with me to soften worry's voice. Then pick one thing, just one, to try, a tiny little choice. Maybe worry isn't bigger than a whale. Willa thought this over. I could go for just the start. If all my worries do come true, I know I can depart. With plan in mind, the two good friends continued on their way. Deep breaths and conversation helped keep worried thoughts at bay. As the pair approached the party, Willa's worry started churning. But then she heard, "You got this," and she felt her calm returning. Inside was loud and crowded, but she found a comfy place. She watched her friends and played a bit, less worry on her face. Maybe worry isn't bigger than a whale. Willa didn't talk a lot. She felt a little shy, but that's okay, she coached herself. I only have to try. When worries started bubbling up, she breathed and whooshed them out. "You're doing great," said Mr. Fish. It helped dispel her doubt. But all at once, her peace of mind upended in a burst. The time had come for singing, and my singing is the worst. What if I'm too squeaky, off key, and awfully rude? What if I forget the words? What if I get booed? Worries growing bigger, even bigger than a whale. Once again, you can see here, these bubbles on the page are her thoughts. These are the stories inside her head of all the things that she thinks could go wrong. Uninterrupted worries flowed and flooded through her head. They nearly overwhelmed her, but she made a plan instead. She turned and said to Mr. Fish, "I'm going to try one note. If I get stuck, I'll hum instead. I'll let the music float." So Willa tried. She sang her note. The voices joined as one. And Willa Whale enjoyed herself. This party has been fun. Worry tells us stories, but not all of them are true. So when worry swims inside me, there are things that I can do. I can find a friend to talk to, then breathe and make a plan. Choose a tiny step to take, believe and know I can. Because worry isn't bigger than a whale. So that is the story of the Pout Pout fish and the Worry Worry whale. And Mr. Fish was able to help Willa understand a little more about her worries and things that she can do. And I hope that story has helped you with a few ideas. And writing the story helped me understand the process of worrying a little better. And I feel like I learned a lot from my friend, Mr. Fish.
Thank you so much, Deborah. That was so fun, such a good book. And I know that I still deal with worry, so it's a good message for everyone to hear. It looks like we have some friends from Battle Creek, from Massachusetts, Delta Center Elementary, Grand Rapids. So lots of people joining us today. If anyone has any questions, again, feel free to drop them in that chat. And we'll be on here a few more minutes with Deborah. One question I have for you, Deborah, is will we see Pout Pout Fish and the Worry Worry Whale back again in other books?
I hope so. I am currently working on some new stories. I'm working on one for Mr. Fish by himself, and I'm working on one that might be for Willa Whale by herself. They're both fun characters, and I think they have a lot of adventures to explore. And Willa Whale especially has some new things I think she'll be looking into.
That's awesome. Where do you kind of get your inspiration for these topics?
A lot of the inspiration comes either from noticing things that other people are experiencing, especially when my kids were little. They're now both adults, but they once upon a time were young children. And so I noticed what they were going through and thought about books that they might enjoy. And sometimes I think about me as a kid and what books I would have enjoyed reading. And I like different kinds of books. I like different kinds of books then. So sometimes I write in rhyme, and sometimes I write silly things, and sometimes I write more serious things, because we all like a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So that's how I am as a writer as well. I try different things. And I never get my writing right on the first try. Writing requires a lot of revision. So for those of you who are listening, who are writing, whether you're working on letters, forming letters into words, or putting words into sentences and sentences into stories, whatever stage you're at on that process, there might be times that you feel frustrated because you think, I'm not getting this right. My letter looks funny, or my words aren't coming together. And you may not feel like a real writer, but you are a real writer, because that's what writing is. It's the work of trying and then changing it a little and trying again. If you get it right the first time, that will probably only happen 1 or 2 times in your whole life. Writing is getting it right the second or third, and sometimes the 100th time.
That's great advice. Good for us all to hear. All right, we have a question from Ryland. He's age 4, and he's curious what kind of whale Willa is, if there's a specific species.
That is a very good question, and I am not actually sure. In my head, I didn't have a picture of what Willa looked like. You know, when I mentioned before, when we were all imagining going to the moon, some people's imagination is filled with colors and pictures. My imagination doesn't have any pictures in it. It only has words and ideas and stories. But the stories are in words, they're not in pictures. So when I write a story and then it's handed over to the illustrator, it's always such a wonderful surprise to see the illustrations, because I didn't know in my head what Willa Whale looked like until I saw her. I didn't know what the Pout Pout fish looked like until Dan Hanna created the images and the art. So the illustrator created the whale, and I will have to ask what species of whale Willa is, because I don't know offhand, and that's a very important thing for me to know. So I will find out.
Good to know that you're still learning too. That's fun. How do you decide how to work with an illustrator, or how does that relationship work?
The interesting thing about children's books, and this isn't the case in every book or every publisher, but usually a writer writes the story first, and then the story is accepted by a publisher. And then after the publisher has accepted it for publication, the illustrator is selected. And sometimes an author will give some input about that process, but usually that's done independently. And then the illustrator gets to make the story their very own. And sometimes when people hear that, they think, well, shouldn't the author tell the illustrator what to do? And the answer is absolutely not, because the artist of a book brings as much to the story as the author. The pictures tell a story in a unique and different way that goes along with the words, but isn't just bringing the words to life. The art is its own story. And so the artist gets to look at the words and decide how that story should be told in pictures. And that is what really brings a picture book to life. And I am grateful for every illustrator of every book that I have in print, because, or every book that I have, because without the illustrations, the words wouldn't come alive.
That's wonderful. All right, it looks like that's all the questions we have today. Thank you so much for joining us, Deborah. And for all of you watching, if you would like to purchase a copy of the book, I have posted links in the comments below to our stores. You can also come into any of our store locations. We have locations in Grand Rapids, Okemos, and Nicola's Books in Ann Arbor. And there will be signed copies at all of those locations. So Deborah has graciously signed a few copies of the book, and Okemos has those ready to go today. So you can stop in there and pick up a signed copy. Grand Rapids and Ann Arbor will have them starting tomorrow. So we're really excited about that. Thank you so much, Deborah.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate Schuler Books hosting this story time. And I appreciate all of you who were able to tune in for it. I always feel connected through the world of books to all of you. And I am grateful for that. And thank you for sharing some time with me this morning. I wish you happy summer reading.
You as well. All right, bye. All right, we're off Facebook. So thank you so much,
All
Deborah.
right. Thank you. That was fun.
Yeah, it was great. I'm a big fan of this book. It feels very like relatable to me.
Yeah, it really is kind of my autobiography. So when my editor asked if I would like to write some more in the series, although I don't have a lot of specific ideas, I figure I probably have a lot of territory I can tap into as a lifelong warrior. It's kind of my superpower.
Yeah. All right. Well, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Well, you too. Thank you again.
Yep. Bye.